Hey, what's up guys, Tony here, and you're watching another retrospective commentary. This is actually week 7. This is at Circuit Park Zandvoort. I believe I'm saying that right. I'm not entirely sure. As per usual, my racing teammate Tim is here in the number 9 car. He has pole position. I qualified in 2nd place, and we're getting ready to go green. And this commentary, I'm actually going to do it a little bit different, because when I did my year in review, it was on week 6. Oh, by the way, before we get started, Tim had a pretty shitty start here, so I was able to jump out in front and pick up 1st place from him. And it's kind of funny because during the race, someone had asked, because we were actually wearing different paint schemes. We were wearing our Mobile 1 paint schemes, and that's why you see my arms blue and white. Right now, I am currently using my Rockstar energy drink, my punched paint scheme, which you guys have probably seen in some videos. Tim's using the Razor paint scheme that I made for him. And so anyways, the guy had asked if we were teammates, and so in the live com, and I'll put a link in the description, Tim has his version of it, the live com. Tim hit me right there. I lost a little bit of control, but someone had asked us if we were teammates, and so we said yes. And Tim and I had joked about how we were going to block for each other. Also, there's something else I wanted to note. This was the first and only race. I don't know. Well, sorry, I raced it actually a couple times, but this was our first race. Tim and I both, we had never raced here before. This was our first race here. We got into like the 3rd split or something like this, and then right here during the I didn't mean to dive bomb him right here. What happened is that I live with my grandmother. She has Alzheimer's, and so sometimes she'll come in at the most inopportune time and start talking to me, and so I was muting my microphone, so I was playing with my microphone trying to get it back on, and I noticed that I was coming up on Tim really hard, and I was just like, dude, don't wreck him. I felt really bad. So I apologized to him afterwards. I was like, sorry, dude, man, my grandmother came in, and it was the worst time. So from here on out, though, it was pretty safe driving. But what I was saying is that we got a couple of hours practice time in, and we were in probably one of the lower splits from this. Let me look right here real quick on the splits. We were in the 2nd split, so there's only 2 splits, but we were in the bottom split. And our the strength of the field was only 1133, so it wasn't like we were playing with the big guys. So Tim and I were pretty much, I mean, we're not the fastest on this track for sure, obviously, because if you've watched, you know that there's guys significantly faster than us on this track. But for us today, we were the fastest that day. So anyways, what I was saying earlier is that and the reason why I want to actually do a commentary about the first half of the season, because I wanted to do it on week 6 and just sort of recap the first half of the season and where things are and where I hope for them to go. But I did my year in review, and I figured this would be a good video to do it for, because I jumped out in first on lap 1 and I stay in 1st place, and it's a rather uneventful race from here on out, minus the last lap where my other teammate Andy, who was in the top split, he was racing that, and his race got over for ours, and he started talking to me about something in the very last lap, and I had missed my braking point going into that nice left-hand turn that a lot of people seem to miss, and I did it. And so I was like, Andy, kind of yelled at him. I felt bad, but you know, I was in 1st place going into that last lap, going in the second to last turn, and you know, he was you know, jabbering with me, you know, talking with me about, you know, like something. I can't remember what it was, but anyways, what I want to do, like I said, I want to do I want to do like a recap the first half of the season, and at the end of the season, I want to recap the season in its entirety. So what I want to look at is the first 6 weeks, and this is obviously 7th week. So this race is the first week of the second half of the season for us. So here's what I found really interesting about this season so far, is that this season has certainly had its ups and downs for me, and I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a little bit more of a calmer season than this so far, sort of a mundane kind of season. But what I have noticed, and a lot of people have commented about this as well, is that there's a lot of drivers that have come out for the GT3 series now, and a lot of it has to do with because of the roof. I doubt this series would have the sort of traction and the sort of popularity that it does if it wasn't for the roof, and that will only probably get bigger when the BMW is introduced at the end of this season going into next season. So it'll be really interesting to see what the quality of the drivers look like moving up to next season. And I say that because, and I don't really think of myself as an exceptional driver. I really think of myself as an average driver. Maybe I could be so bold to call myself an above average driver. I've noticed that after I put in some serious practice time, I mean like hours and hours and hours, I can be 2 to 3 seconds behind the fastest guys, behind the aliens, as we like to call them. This track, no, not even close. I'm one of the slowest guys that are out there, and I just happened to get into it, like I said earlier, just happened to get into a split where there was a bunch of other guys who were just not as fast. We were competitive with each other, which was great. We were all competitive in this field, but on the whole, we were amongst the slowest of us all. But anyway, so what I've noticed is, like I said, I feel myself and Tim or about average, if not maybe a little bit, maybe above average as far as our driving skill is concerned. And I know Tim is a far safer driver than I am. I am far more aggressive in my driving style, but that's really here and over there. It's just different driving styles. But so we'll see how season 2 of 2014 shapes up next season with the BMW. But like I was saying, it has been a rocky season because week 1, I didn't get around to doing these retrospective commentaries until week 4. So weeks 1, 2, and 3 went by, and I didn't really touch them. I really didn't have the idea to do a retrospective commentary until week 4, because I had that really good race where I finished in second place, and I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about week 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, 5, 6 at the end of it. But I will touch on those just in a little bit because we've already seen those videos. So week 1. Week 1 was at Road Atlanta, and I actually, and I talked about this in the video that I had posted, my stream upload. Someone was talking about the McLaren. I think his name was Jabba. Anyways, this guy was talking about how he's faster than the McLaren than the roof. And I, on the other hand, I am not. I am usually 2 to 3 seconds faster in the roof than I am the McLaren. And I was actually surprised to find that out because initially, because I already knew that I was going to be racing on the roof. Tim and I had already talked about it. We already knew we were going to be racing with the roof because it was a new car, and you know, it's like any sort of DLC, brand new DLC that comes out. You want to give it a fair shake. You want to give it a try because it's brand new. And so during week 13, we were really in love with the car. I mean, the car was phenomenal, and it was above and beyond the McLaren. And knowing that it was going to be the GT3 and the GT3, and it was going to be the McLaren and the roof, and you're just like, okay. Yeah, if these are the 2 cars that are going to be in there, the roof is way better than the McLaren. I mean, it was without a doubt the roof was the better car, better brakes, transmission was fantastic. It was a phenomenal transition. You could just slam, you can downshift with ease. There was no getting stuck in second gear or third gear like there was with the McLaren the last couple seasons before that. The car, like I said, it was nimble, it could outbrake the car, it had great power, great balance. You just really had to learn how to drive with the rear engine rear-wheel drive because that was a bit tricky. And it still presents to be a problem in some courses, like this week's course it did for me at the onset of the week. So going into Road Atlanta, coming off of week 13, I knew, and Tim and I both knew, that we were going to be spending a lot of time with the roof. And so what I did, though, is I also practiced with the McLaren just because I had spent a whole season with it. I wanted to actually race both of them and do sort of a side-by-side. But after practicing with both cars at Road Atlanta, it was pretty obvious to me that it wasn't even... If I wanted to be competitive, and I always want to be competitive, I'm not going to handicap myself and go down that road. So I shelved McLaren. And I would touch it here and there. Like I went to Silverstone. I tried it at Silverstone. I tried it at Watkins Glen. I did try it at Road America. And I try it at Silverstone? I might have actually, you know what? I did try it at Silverstone as well. The only track I didn't try it out was at Mount Panorama. And then didn't try it at Bathurst. But I've been giving it a shot now and again. So anyways, like I said, I made that choice because I felt that I was overall faster in the roof. And so going into week 1, I raced week 1 5 times, because what happened is the first race, the second race, and I think the 4th race, I was wrecked out of those races by over-aggressive drivers. And it was so deflating that I had these just, like, this Road to Atlanta was one of my favorite tracks. And so I was expecting to have really good weeks. And it was really a dismal performance. I think I got my best race was on the last, I think it was like a Sunday or Monday or something like that. Anyways, I had a really good race that last race, and so my standing was just really low. I didn't really have much in the way of points for the week, and it was really a down week for me. So I came out of week 1 just kind of feeling a little about the season at that point. And I mean, I knew it was week 1. There was 13 more weeks, 11 more weeks to go after that. And so I was like, okay, well, I mean, I had one good race, but the problem is at that time I didn't really understand what would happen if you raced so many times. So I learned after that, it was, races 1 through 4, they take the best, and then race 5 through 9, they take your top 2 and they average them. So I didn't get as much points out of that week as I could have, because I raced 5 times, and so they took the top 2 races that I scored points on and they averaged that. So basically I had one really good race, the Sunday race, and they merged it with like the Saturday race or the Friday race or whenever it was. And so instead of walking away with like 80 points, I walked away with like 65 because they averaged the 2 together. So I was like, crap, that sucks. And then so week 2 was out at Mount Panorama at Bathurst, and it's a track that I have actually very little experience with. When it came out a couple seasons back, Tim and I gave it the old college try. I didn't like it because it's an incredibly difficult track, and he gave it more of a shot than I did. And he was even so bold. He did the V8 supercars with it. I didn't want to touch it. I was just like, you know what? We're not running it. I'm not worrying about it. That's kind of my attitude. But I raced a couple of times, and I think it was about that time, maybe it was the next week or so, I decided I was going to start streaming more and more. Anyways, Bathurst, I actually grew to love it. It's probably one of my favorite tracks now. It is one of the more difficult tracks, but it is probably one of my more favorite tracks now, because I spent so much time dialing in a setup, practicing, and just getting good at this track. And I know I streamed some of those races. I know I crashed out like twice. I hit the wall, and you find out right there that the wall is very unforgiving. You hit the wall and you're done. And I started to have a really good race with Tim, and we were going into the last corner before the straightaway, going down the mountain, and Tim's like, all right, I'm gonna let you pass coming out of this corner on the straightaway. I was like, cool, all right, fine, that's great, I'll do that. And I came out of the Falcon turn, I came out of it, and for whatever reason, like, I was going my normal speed, but I think I got on the gas a little too early, and I put myself right into the wall. And I was done. I was done for the race. I had like probably like a 10-minute repair time, and it was ridiculous. So week 2 didn't end any better for me than week 1, and but I learned a lot, and I really started to appreciate the track, and I started to appreciate the difficulty of the track. It was kind of funny because it's difficult and you don't necessarily appreciate it because it's difficult. You get really frustrated with it, but after the fact, this is a common thread with me, by the way, is that I'm like, crap, I hate this track. Initially, I hate it. I can't stand it. I don't understand it. But then once I start to learn it and I realize the things that I'm doing wrong, I actually really start to like the track a lot. And so I actually really like Bathurst now. So much so that I've watched so many videos of the V8 supercars at Bathurst. If I see people running at Bathurst, I'll watch them. I'll watch streams of people iRacing at Bathurst. It's one of those things that I have a great appreciation for Bathurst now, and I understand how difficult it is. and I wish I could have a redo for that week, because I practiced so much. I practiced so hard, and that's one of the big reasons why it was such a letdown for me, is that I put so much time in practicing, and you mess up once there, and you're done, and your race is over, and that's what happened. So moving on to week 3, Silverstone was a 70-minute race, and it was my first, I think it was my first 70-minute race ever. And I raced that one a handful of times. Actually, I only intended to race it once, because like Bathurst, Silverstone is a track that I don't have much experience in. Like Gran Turismo 6, I have a little bit of experience racing there. And that's pretty much it. Gran Turismo, that's all. Oh, and Assetto Corsa. Those are the two other titles that I've actually tried this Silverstone, but they're different versions of Silverstone. So, like, it'd be kind of familiar. I was like, oh, yeah, something's coming up. But this iRacing version is, I guess, the older version of Silverstone. And because it was a 70-minute race, I just was like, oh, I don't really want to race a 70-minute race. I mean, you know, I'll do it, whatever. I'll do it, because I don't like the track at all. I'll go ahead and give it a couple tries. I probably won't race it much. And it turns out that, like Bathurst, Silverstone is a track that I still don't really like it, but I got better at it the more I raced, the more I practiced, which is always good. You always want to be good at something, and I'm super competitive. I want to be good at everything that I do, especially if it's an athletic thing. I wouldn't really consider iRacing to be athletic, but it is. I mean, there's a bit of athleticism, coordination, and stuff involved. It's not like baseball. Like, I've been playing baseball all my life. It's definitely not the same as that, but the focus and concentration, those aspects of, say, sports and athleticism come into play, and especially when you're running a 70-minute race like Silverstone was, it was beautiful. It was also a safety rating gold mine. My safety rating skyrocketed. At one point, I was at 3.9, and I was like, oh, I'll be a 4 before I know it. I'll get promoted to A. This would be awesome, because I want to get the A class. I mean, who doesn't want to get to the max license? So I'll get the A class. Well, I got really close, and Silverstone was a track that I had, like I said, I learned a lot. Like Bathurst before it, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the track. I learned a lot about lines. I learned a lot about just practice and dedication and things that go with being a successful racer, iRacer, sim racer. I had probably, like I posted that video of my best pass today, I had a breakout moment at Silverstone, and for me that changed the way that I raced probably since then. Because before at Road Atlanta, actually at Road Atlanta, I started out with a lot of gusto. I had raced there before. I had really good races there before with the McLaren, and I was expecting to have good races there. So I came in with a lot of confidence, and I got my confidence shattered because of bad drivers. And then, oh, that's right, I finished the race, and I came out of the second to last corner on the last lap, gave it a little too much gas, came in a little hot, gave it a little too much gas on the way out, and I spun out. And I went from like second place to 5th place by the time I crossed the finish line, and boy was I pissed. It was a great race up to that point. That's one of those, maybe I should just go back and do those weeks. If I have the replays, just go back and do them and then put them together in this playlist that I'm compiling, so that way at least they're on record. But anyway, so Silverstone, I had that pass, and it changed the way that I was racing from it. I felt way more confident in my abilities. I think it was sort of vindication, like, Tony, you have some skill. You might not be the best racer, but you do have some skill. And the other thing is, I learned a little bit about pit strategy. I realized that pitting at certain times is great. It's a little difficult, especially if you don't race endurance races for very long or very often, and you have like myself, you have very little experience with racing endurance races. Knowing when to pit, how much fuel to take, tires, whatever, your pit strategies that you guys who are more experienced iRacers will know about. I'm just sort of still learning about. So it sort of introduced me to that. And overall, there were some good races in there. I think at one point my highest, because in the endurance races you yo-yo your positions. I think at one point my best position was 2nd, and then I had to pit, and then I lost that. I don't know. I think my best finish at Silverstone was like 8th or something. I'd have to go back and look, and I don't even have it. I don't even have the race reports anymore. They be gone. But week 4 at Brands Hatch is the week that I started streaming religiously, and not only that, but I started to do the retrospective commentaries. And week 4, actually coming out of Silverstone, I was like, okay, I'm almost to a 4 safety rating. I know that I can make this happen. It won't be difficult for me to become a 4. And truth be told, I was wrong. My first race at Brands Hatch, I didn't qualify, and that was the thing I didn't do before. I wasn't qualifying before, and I should have learned that lesson, because at Road Atlanta, it was one of those things where I should have qualified, because I know the track really well, and I got stuck in the back, and I got stuck with bad drivers, and of course I got wrecked by bad drivers. Mount Panorama at Bathurst, I didn't qualify because I don't know the track, and I didn't want to be competitive fighting for a position with guys who know the track, so I opted to be in the back. I might have qualified, but I know I didn't qualify with a really good time. Silverstone, I did qualify for that, but again, it was just one of those, I was in the back of the pack because I didn't really know the track very well. And Brands Hatch was a track that I didn't qualify the first race, but after the first race I qualified because I got stuck with behind bad traffic, and these guys were like too wide going into turn 1 to looks like turn 3 or so. Anyways, they broke really early, and well before I was expecting them to brake, because I was just getting off the gas, and these guys were on their brakes, and I got on my brakes, and I ended up rear-ending a guy, and he thought I was trying to make it 3 wide, which I wasn't, but rear-ended a guy, and I think I wrecked like 2 or 3 people. I felt like an asshole, but it was another race that my car was completely decimated. I had nothing I could do, so I had to back out of that one. And my safety rating at the end of Brands Hatch, because there's a lot of little off tracks, it went from 3.9 down to like a 3.2 or 3.3 or something. It annihilated my safety rating. It was really bad. But overall, it was a really good experience. I really liked that track. That was another track that I had a lot of difficulty with, because I'd raced that track on like Gran Turismo before. I'd never raced it in iRacing or any other actual sim, so my experiences with it came from a controller and not from an actual wheel, not from a sim, so from a video game. And so learning this track, there are still parts of the track that I need to learn, but it's one of those tracks that I've never raced before, so it was my first shot at racing this, and I know the more I race it, the better I'll get. It's like all these other tracks. The more tracks I'm really familiar with, I had really good weeks at, but these tracks like Zandvoort, Brands Hatch, Silverstone, Bathurst, those are tracks that I haven't raced a lot of, so I didn't do particularly well there, but I figured the more time I put into iRacing, the more I'll get better at them, or the better I'll get at them. So anyways, Brands Hatch, I had that really good race. It was the one where I finished second place, and I was like, wow, that was amazing. And it was a high split, and it got a lot of points, and I jumped up in the standings. It was around this time that I started to jump up in the standings. Like I was down bottom, but I jumped up in the standings because of that. And then going to Watkins Glen is a track that I actually know really well. Just racing it with a new car and learning, different setups and stuff like that. It takes its time. You take time to get used to it. But that was the one I did the retrospective comm where I was in first place, and then I got rear-ended by the guy. And then after that, I finished third. I finished third in that race. Andy finished second, but it was one that I led for a significant amount of that race, and I'm really upset that guy came and he was racing as aggressively as he was, and he hit me. But you know what? Hey, it is what it is. It's racing, and that shit happens. But I had a couple of really good races there, and again, I jumped up in points and the higher splits. I raced that one again. And I was racing in the top split for one of those, and actually had a really good race. And I jumped up in points. I think I got more points from that higher split than I did from the lower split, placing higher. That's just the way it works. But really good race at Watkins Glen, and that's a track I really like. So, like I said, again, those ones I usually had good races. Going into Road America, that's a track that's probably one of my favorite tracks. Like Road Atlanta, Road America are two tracks that I really love. I love these faster tracks, and so I worked my ass off. And I was able to get my track times down to a minute 24 at the end of the week. And I'm so upset that the race week had to end because I wanted to race again. Because I pulled 1 week, I pulled 1 week and I had problems with the stream, and I think I did a commentary about it. And that was actually another 70-minute race as well. And I think I finished, ultimately I finished in second place in that race, but I had pole position. My overall lap times were faster than this guy's. I just, I didn't put in the practice time before the race to be successful, and that's what I should have done, but I didn't. And it's like I said in that year review, it's like practice makes perfect. It's one of those things I knew going in as an athlete. You practice how you play. The more practice you have, the better prepared you are for your event. And I had about 15 minutes of practice for this race, and it showed. And it was towards the end of the race that I really started to nail down that track. But it was too late. I mean, my car was damaged. I got hit twice by one guy. It was like this German who was driving a McLaren and hit me from behind. But anyways, Road America is just one of those tracks that was... That still, I love that track. That is, like, if I had a home track, I think that would make that my home track. I feel very comfortable at that track, and I absolutely love that track. I can't wait to race it again. So then moving on to this week. And so by the way, I actually got a lot of points from that week. I had a couple really great races at Road America. It seems like every race that I've had there has been an exciting race, and I like having that. I like having really exciting, really competitive races. So for me, like I was saying, sort of I'm going to recap this before I work on this week, just kind of talking about our week 7. Going in, weeks 1 through 3 were just sort of a downer. I was really iffy about them. It's like, they're not too good. They were just, like they weren't. I didn't get what I was expecting to come out of the gate, really, really fighting hard, and I didn't. The weeks 1 through 3 were just like bleh. I mean, minus the safety rating boost of week 3, like that was awesome. Like that was great. I'll do that more. Yes. But points wise and just sort of from a competitive standpoint, minus the one really good race I had at Road Atlanta, weeks 1 through 3 were really pretty much a letdown, really a big downer for me. So I went into week 4 not feeling as confident as I wanted to, but that really tight second place victory or second place finish that I had brought me back. And then so going from week 4, week 5, and week 6, having good races 3 weeks in a row, or good series of races 3 weeks in a row, it was such a boost to my confidence. I felt so good. And in my points, I jumped up. Oh my God, I skyrocketed. I was in the top 10. I still am in the top 10 in my division in points. And so it was nice. And then so going into week 7 here at Zandvoort, I raced this one on Tuesday. Actually, no, this was a Friday race. That's what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I raced this on Friday with Tim, and I had my first place finish. And I was like, I'm not racing. I got my race in, man. We're done. Oh no, actually this was a Tuesday. Sorry, Road America was a Friday. Anyways, so this happened on a Tuesday, and I actually wanted to do a dual retrospective com with them, but because it didn't happen last week, and because I wanted to do a mid-season review, I'm gonna just go ahead and do it. I guess just gonna do it this way. But like I said earlier, this is a track that I don't know really well. This is the first time I'm racing on it. Practiced several hours on it, and I got it down, but my lap times are not as fast. But overall, I mean, this one race, and I think I raced a second time. I raced a second time on this track, and I did started in second. I finished in 6th, and it was a pretty good race. But I mean, the split was I was in the second split for that race, and the guys were just really fast. I mean, they were running better lap times than I was. That's for damn sure. They were more consistent. Let's go ahead and say that. Ideally, I would have loved to have been as fast, going from Road America where I was running really, really fast lap times, getting into the 124s where the fast guys are running. I felt that cool. I could do that for the rest of these tracks, and it just hasn't been the case so far, especially with tracks that I don't know very well, because the really fast guys running on this track were like 135s, and here I am 3 to 4 seconds off of pace, which is normal. Like 2 to 3 is where I'd like to be ideally, but 3 to 4 is a little deep. I don't want to be that far behind. So, anyways, at this point in the season, now I just finished week 8, and I've actually had it has been like week 1. I got wrecked out of a couple of races, and it was very, very upsetting. It was not fun at all. And so far this week alone, I raced 2 races with the roof. Actually, no, I raced 4 races this week. So the first 2 races I was wrecked out by bad drivers. The 3rd race with the roof, I did well. I started 4th, I finished 4th. I was happy, top 5 finish. Not going to touch it. And then I raced one more time with the McLaren just to give it a go. One night I was just feeling a little froggy. I was like, sure, what the hell? I don't care. I'll just do it. It was actually, I got a lot of points for finishing 16th, 60 championship points in a 1700 split. I got 69 from a split of 1238. So you get a lot of points. So anyways, so far for the stats wise on the season, going into week 9, I'm sitting at 8. I have 563 points for the season. I'm in 8th position, and I am 7 points from 7 points from position 6, and 40 some odd points from position 5. So I can move up as long as I keep doing what I'm doing now. I'll be able to finish strong, and I'd love to finish in like top 5 for the season. That's the point Andy was talking to me. I was like, Andy. So anyways, so far this season, like I said, the first half of the season has been it's been all over the place. Like weeks 1 through 3 were meh. 4, 5, and 6 were like, yeah. Week 7 was yeah. Even on a course that I don't really know so well. And week 8 has been basically a yo-yo again. Like a week 1. So I'm curious to know from you guys. It's like if you're racing the GT3 series, how has your season gone so far? Because mine, like I just said it plenty of times, it's been a yo-yo. It's been all over the place. And so I want to hear about from you guys. How are you guys doing so far this season? Let me know in the comment section, okay, guys? So anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I shall talk to you guys later.